Hopefully, no, we don't have any technical difficulties. I am here with Margaret Flowers, the Green Party candidate running for Senate in the state of Maryland. She was just blocked out of radio debates featuring the Democrat and Republican candidate. Margaret, tell me what's going on.
Thanks so much for having me, Matt. Yeah, so it's really interesting that we just found this report by the USAID last night on how countries around the world should structure their debates. And it says that they should make sure that all candidates' voices are heard, that they could have as many as 8 candidates in one debate. And what we see in the United States is a complete opposite of that, where they find criteria to exclude alternative candidates. So um, Chris Van Hollen has agreed to 2 debates only because he's the lead runner. So why would he want to actually, debate people? And they're using this very high polling, 10%, 15% polling, which maintains the pay-to-play system because it really means that only candidates who are not part of the major parties, only candidates who have a lot of money and can buy media to get the exposure are able to achieve those polling levels right away. If we actually had open debates and people could hear my positions, that would probably change things fundamentally, but they're not allowing me to do that.
Well, hopefully, I hope to provide a little outlet for you here. So, if you were in the debates, how would you introduce yourself and your policies to everybody in 2 minutes?
Okay, great. Thanks. So I'm Margaret Flowers. I'm a mother and a pediatrician in Maryland. I have 3 children that are in college right now. And I basically left practice after 17 years to fight for a national improved Medicare for all healthcare system, and did that at the national level in 2009, 2010. And since then have really been engaged in the broader struggle for social, economic, and racial justice, working on a whole range of issues like stopping the Trans-Pacific Partnership, like ending fossil fuels and moving to 100% renewable energy. I've been involved with Veterans for Peace and other veterans groups, fighting for, as a foreign policy that supports human rights, that respects international law and national sovereignty. I've worked on issues of cleaning up abandoned uranium mines, which most people don't even know that there are more than 15,000 abandoned uranium mines around the United States, mostly on tribal land, and they've been polluting the water and causing health problems there for like 50, 60 years. So just have a broad range of experience. Also, one that you might care about, fighting for net neutrality. We played a
Absolutely.
big role in that fight to get the internet reclassified as a common carrier. And I've just really learned how we can work strategically to actually set the agenda, because when we let the political elite set the agenda, it doesn't really serve the interests of the people. And I've been doing that from the outside, and now I want to take that fight inside of the Senate so that I can work with people on the outside to really start setting that agenda and fighting for the things that we need. I've also done a lot of work around wealth inequality and the new economy as well. So I'm running as a Green so that I don't take any corporate or PAC money, and I can really be a voice for the people. And this is really about building political power for progressive change. So
Yeah,
that's the basic.
yeah, the main thing about the Green Party that really appeals to me, and I think would appeal to most people, is the fact that it's the only party that doesn't take any corporate money, which is such a huge issue we're dealing with now in politics.
It's fundamental because I found when I was, all the times that I've been in the Senate and House working with members of Congress, is that they are completely stifled by that money and by their political parties' agendas. They're not able to advocate for real solutions. And when they do, like when we've actually had members of Congress step out and fight for single payer, then they get slapped down. They like Dennis Kucinich basically lost his seat because he was the last one holding out for single payer in 2009, 2010. So.
So you mentioned single payer there. You're a big supporter of that. Now Hillary Clinton, she was formerly for universal health care, but now she says payer will quote never ever come to pass. Uh, it sounds like you think she's wrong. Why is she wrong?
Well, I absolutely think that she's wrong because it's something that the majority of people want and have wanted for a long time. Even if we look at the current polls, 80% of Democratic voters want a Medicare for all or single payer healthcare system. We can't expect the political elites to ever say that that we can have what we want. The reason that they say that we can't have it is that the political will is not there. But the reality of the healthcare crisis is here. That's not going away. The Affordable Care Act is not solving it. There's nothing we can do to tweak that to make it work. So the one thing that's changeable here is political will, and that's what we as people can do. In 2009, we actually got a single payer bill to the floor of the Senate for the first time in December 16th, 2009. And that was with very little in the way of resources and just fighting super hard. So I believe that if we could have gotten it that far with not much in the way of resources, that if we actually have leaders in Congress who are willing to step up and fight for it, and the people answer that, then we will change that political will.
Now, when you were introducing yourself, you mentioned you oppose the TPP. I know you've been trying to stop the TPP for a really long time now. Okay, but Obama's a huge supporter of it. So why? What's wrong with the TPP?
Right. So the TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's an international agreement that's been negotiated between 12 Pacific Rim countries. It was concluded last year and signed on February of this year, February 4th. And really, this was an agreement that it's really an international treaty, and it was classified, so it was negotiated in secret. Our own members of Congress didn't have input to it, but hundreds of corporate lobbyists from like Monsanto, Exxon, Pfizer, Walmart, they were all in there actually writing the text. And our own members of Congress, when they wanted to read the text, had to go through a very rigorous process. They couldn't take notes, they couldn't take pictures, they couldn't take a staffer in, and they couldn't talk about what they had read. So we know that this was negotiated by and for multinational corporations, and there's a whole host of reasons why we should be opposed to it. It impacts everything we care about, from food safety to the cost of healthcare, worker rights, protection of the environment. But a big one is this ISDS, or Investor State Dispute Settlement Court, that will allow thousands more corporations to sue our government if we pass laws that protect the planet, protect workers, protect our communities. So that previous cases that have gone through these types of courts are, if someone tries to raise the minimum wage, that interferes with profits. Try to label, GMOs, if you try to move to making your own renewable energy, all these things that we need, corporations can sue us for.
Nobody talks about that part of it. I mean, I haven't heard Obama say anything about that investor state dispute settlement system that allows corporations to sue governments.
And we can't sue in reverse. We can't sue corporations if they're harming us.
Yeah. And the fact that when they sue, it's determined by not an open public jury, but 3 corporate lawyers determine the results of.
Right. These are experts that leave their jobs as corporate lawyers to serve as judges, where they can set a legal precedent and then go back to their job and use that precedent to their advantage. And it supersedes even our Supreme Court. We have no appeal process. It's an arbitration type of system. So that's the final word.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to look into that. It's pretty messed up. Okay, now one of my favorite topics, basic income. I've got one of your flyers here that I got when I met you. We met at the protest for open debates here in DC. And you do mention that you support a guaranteed income on here. Can you explain what that is for everybody and why you support it?
Sure. Can I just really quickly mention that the TPP they're gonna try to ratify it after the election?
Oh yeah, so please go for it.
If people are interested, go to flushthetpp.org and learn more about how we're gonna fight that. But basic income. So one of the first things that really hit me as a physician, why healthcare need to be part of the broader struggle for social, economic, and racial justice, is that even if we gave everybody access to healthcare, we would not improve our health outcomes, because wealth inequality is one of the biggest drivers of poor health outcomes. And we have a strong trend of increasing wealth inequality in this country. So a basic guaranteed income basically says that every adult receives a check every month of enough money to meet their basic needs for food and housing, for those types of basic things. And the reason that I support it is because this would immediately end poverty. It would immediately end the need for many poverty programs, and it would immediately stimulate the economy from the bottom up. We're strangling our economy, as now we have 50% of people in this country that only have 1% of our country's wealth, and the lower 25% are in debt. So people are not able to pay for the food they need, the medicine they need, clothing, basic supplies. And so this is just really strangling our economy. So there's a lot of reasons. Another one that we need to support it is that ultimately, because of technology, we probably won't have a full employment economy. So we need to start thinking about how do we deal with that. And then people say, well, wait, we can't do that. How can we like give everybody money to meet their basic needs? What we have to recognize is that we're already subsidizing corporations in this country tremendously through direct subsidies, tax loopholes, allowing them to offshore, really literally trillions of dollars. So it's not a matter of money, it's a matter of priorities. And who do we care about most? The people or these, large multinational corporations?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. And also, basic income would somehow even help, I mean, everybody, even the owners of these corporations to some degree.
Exactly.
Because otherwise they have nobody to sell their products to, because everybody's
Right.
getting poorer and poorer with less and less money,
Right.
no money to spend. Let me ask you, well, Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate for president, she has also said that she supports basic income, but when she's asked about it, she kind of dismisses it as a goal for the future and not for the present.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you? Do you feel the same way, or is eliminating poverty with the basic income something you feel needs to be pursued now in the present?
We definitely need to start pursuing it now because we're going to have to start. So Jill talks a lot about the concept of a Green New Deal, which I support. If we are going to seriously deal with the climate crisis, we have to end new fossil fuel infrastructure right now. That's what science tells us, and start moving rapidly to a clean energy economy. And if we do this as a public mobilization, we'll create, 20 million jobs, not just in renewable energy sector, but clean rapid transit, changing our agriculture system so that we have a more regenerative agriculture system that sequesters carbon. We need to do a lot with building efficiency. And so as we start to do that and we invest in this new infrastructure of clean energy and clean transit, if we make that something that has a public return, so instead of, so often we do these public-private things where we subsidize these new projects and then a private corporation takes them and runs with all the profits. If instead we get a public return on what's made from that, that creates a basic guaranteed income. So that has to be part of our overall plan. Does that make sense to you? As we invest in this new economy, it has to have a return to us.
Okay.
It's kind of like what they do right now in Alaska. They passed the Alaska Permanent Trust years ago, so that any oil that's drilled from public lands, a certain proportion of that profit has to go into a public trust. And every year, every Alaskan gets a check from that public trust. So if we invested in clean renewable energy, and then every year a proportion of what's made from that goes into a trust, that becomes a guaranteed income.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah, Alaska already has some form of it, a citizen's dividend. Yeah.
Right. And other countries around the world are using it, and actually more and more are looking into it.
Cool. Actually, the guy who started that in Alaska, he proposed to use that in Iraq as a way to, stabilize it. Don't just take the oil for American corporations. Use it as a citizen's dividend for Iraqis to profit off of it, so we can actually stabilize the region.
Yeah, but if you remember the whole coup I think it was 1953 against Mossadegh in Iran, which was really about because they wanted to nationalize their oil. It's not in our best interest, is it? Our being defined as the corporate state, but yeah, no, that would be great.
Okay, just a couple quick questions left because I know you have a busy day. So, a criticism I often hear about third parties is, why do third parties like the Green Party only run a candidate for president? Why don't you all run in local elections too? Well, clearly you're an example of that. But people don't realize, the reason I think people aren't aware that people are running, third party candidates are running in local elections, is because they don't notice this, because you guys are being blocked out of the debates and being blacked out by the media, just like the presidential candidate Jill Stein and all the candidates of the past. Can you talk about your experience being blocked out of these debates? And I might even play some video, some footage of you getting ripped off the
Sure.
stage. So,
yeah. The debates and the media. I mean, literally, when I reach out to our major media outlets, they are very creative in their excuses of why they're not covering my campaign, and so that's all connected. They won't cover the campaign, and then they say that we can't be in the debates because we don't meet polling criteria. And so how are we supposed to meet the polling criteria if people don't even know that we exist? So during the whole primary process, they kept excluding me from the debates because they said I wasn't in a primary, and that wasn't actually factually true. We have a Green Party primary, but I experienced where I was invited to a number of Senate forums, and some of them I was even invited to twice because they had to change the date, and they wrote back and said, oh, we have to change the date. Are you still available? And I said yes. And then at the last minute, I was getting disinvited from these forums, and for kind of bogus reasons. So finally, I did get a little fed up with that, and when the last one happened, I said, I just have to go down there and expose what's going on and let voters know that there actually is another choice. So I did go to Goucher University and Goucher College, and when they called the candidates up onto the stage, I decided to go up there as well. But right now, the Republican candidate supports having me in the debates. Chris Van Hollen, the Democratic candidate, when I confronted him at a forum, he said on camera that he supported having me in the debates, but the media outlets are not letting me in. They're using this exclusionary polling criteria of 10 or 15%. And so we're pushing back on that and finding other ways to get our voice out there. But I think if people want democracy, this is something that we've got to push on the outlets and let them know that these criteria are no longer valid, because majorities of people want to hear alternative voices. And that's like almost become one of the biggest points when we just did this whole road trip around the entire state. We did 22 cities and in 7 days encircled the whole state. And by the end of it, what people wanted to hear was, I'm not a Democrat or Republican. And then they were like, oh, then they were suddenly interested.
So, cool. Yeah, give the people what they want. Have some other parties in the debates that, besides Democrats and Republicans. That's what people want. All right, Margaret, thanks for joining me. Take this last minute to tell everybody in Maryland why they need to vote for you this November.
Right. So the fundamental crisis that we have right now is the wealth domination of our political parties, and we're not going to confront that by continuing to vote for people who are part of those political parties. So one of the reasons that people should vote for me is because I don't take those corporate dollars. I am beholden to the people. I will work for the people. And by voting for me, you're voting for building political power for the progressive changes that we need. So even if I don't win this election, we're going to continue to build off of this and continue to run candidates. We have 13 candidates running in the state of Maryland, not at the presidential level, but at local level. And we have to continue to build that so that we can start to get the changes that the people want and the people need. So let people power bloom. That's my tagline, and I'm at flowersforsenate.org, and I'm on Facebook and Twitter.
Dr. Margaret Flowers of the Green Party, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.